Hi everyone, this is Damaris. The short story that I decided to choose was The Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe. This short story is about a unnamed narrator that tries to convince his readers that he was not insane, that he was not mad. This this narrator was had an obsession with the old man's eye, which he would describe it as the vultured eye. This obsession turned into him committing a murder, which later on he ends up feeling guilty, and this guilt consumed him, and he could no longer take the guilt, and he ended up confessing to the murder that he had done. So let's get into it. It's true. Yes, I've been ill. But why do you say I am mad? The illness only sharpened my senses. I could hear things from heaven and hell. Do you fancy me mad? But observe how wisely and carefully I tell the story. I love the old man. He never wronged me. I didn't want his gold. It was his eye, his evil, vultured eye, that haunted me. And so I resolved to rid myself of it forever. For 7 nights, I was so cautious. Each night, I would creep into his room, ever so slowly, opening the door just enough to slip my head inside. I held a lantern, covered with cloth, so no light escaped. I moved so carefully. Oh, how clever I was. Each night, I lifted the clock just slightly to shine a tiny ray upon his eye. But it was always closed. And as long as it was closed, I could not kill him. It wasn't the old man that I hated. It was that evil vultured eye. On the 8th night, I was more cautious than ever. The clock's hand moved more quickly than my own. Never before had I felt such power. But just as I pushed the door open, my thumb slipped upon the latch. The old man stirred. "Who's there?" he cried. I did not move for an hour. I stood still. The room was black as pitch. I knew he couldn't see me, but I could sense his terror. His heart pounding in fear. And then I heard it. A low, muffled sound, like a watch wrapped in cotton. His heartbeat. It grew louder, filling the silence of the night. The old man's terror increased the sound. It grew faster, stronger, like a drum beating before war. I feared that the neighbors could hear it too. The moment has come. I made a shriek and rushed into the room. He cried out once, only once. Threw him to the floor, pulled the heavy bed over him, and waited. His heart still beating, but weaker and weaker. Till it stopped. He was dead. His vultured eye would trouble me no more. The night was nearly over, but I worked quickly and quietly. I cut the body into pieces, head, arms, legs, and buried them beneath the floorboards. I left no blood, no mess, nothing remaining of the old man. At 4 o'clock, there was a knock at the door. 3 officers arrived. The neighbors had heard a scream. What I had to fear? I led them through the house, speaking carefully, cheerfully, even bringing a chair to the old man's room. In my confidence, I placed my own chair directly above the floorboards where I had hidden the body. But as we spoke, a noise began, soft, distant, low, and ringing in my ear. No, it was something else. A dull, steady sound, growing louder and louder. It was the old man's heart, still beating beneath the floor. I spoke louder, trying to drown it down. The officer smiled and chatted pleasantly. Could they not hear it? Louder it grew, pounding in my skull. I gasped for air. I rose, paced the floor. I raved. I swore. Still, they smiled. They must have known. Were they mocking me? Were they playing a cruel game? I couldn't bear it no longer. Villains, I shrieked. I admit it. Tear up the floorboards. It's there. It's the beating of his heart, his horrendous heart. I hope you guys like it. That was my version. Try my best. Thank you guys.